Welcome to the session on Ethology, Evolution and Zoography of the 5th semester BSc Zoology core course. And here we are going to deal with the section Evolution. So we had been discussing on course of evolution, and we uh, saw various theories proposed to explain the origin of life on Earth. Here we have the biochemical origin of life, and we'll be seeing the various propositions made by Oparin and Haldane in their hypothesis. Okay. Biochemical origin of life, it is considered to be the modern hypothesis and about the origin of life, or it was otherwise referred as Oparin Haldane hypothesis. This was proposed independently by Oparin in 1923 and Haldane in 1928. Oparin was a Russian biochemist and Haldane an English scientist. And as per the biochemical origin of life or the molecular origin of life, a spontaneous generation of the first living organism might reasonably have taken place if large quantities of organic compounds were present in the primitive oceans. So the processes or the steps that could have been followed for the development of the first life on Earth should have already passed through the development of various organic compounds, then simpler compounds, the complex compounds, and then that may have resulted in the formation of a living cell. Okay, so initially the explanation put forward by Oparin and Haldane explained how the Earth could have originated, how the different molecules may have formed, simpler molecules may have formed, how the simpler molecules may have given rise to complex molecules, and later how a living entity came into being. So initially, they believed that the Earth is obviously it is estimated to be like 5 billion years old, and the most popular hypothesis or accepted hypothesis says that um, Earth was in a cold initial state of solid objects, and initially the Earth was a ball of hot gases and vapors of various elements. Gradually, it began to cool down. When cooling proceeded, the different elements got separated out according to their weight. The heavy elements like iron and nickel sank to the center and formed the solid core of the Earth. The lighter elements like silicon and aluminum form the middle shell, like the mantle. And while the lightest elements like helium, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, they started to flow along the surface and form the gaseous atmosphere. So life is believed to have originated from these elements by chemical changes, various chemical combinations and reactions, etc., through millions of years. So this explains the origin of Earth, and then from the various elements that got separated out, the uh, four major elements that resulted in the formation of life: ammonia, methane, hydrogen, and water vapor. Okay, so there hydrogen was already existing and it was in the gaseous form, and it was actually because of its lighter nature, it was floating on the surface and especially in the gaseous form. So what has to be newly formed was ammonia, methane, and water from already existing molecules. So formation of ammonia and methane and water, how could it have happened? As cooling proceeded further, molecules began to form by joining of the atoms. Hydrogen being in excess, these elements were actually modified or converted into methane, ammonia, and water vapor. Because hydrogen, obviously, it is a major component of all these molecules, isn't it? Methane, CH4, ammonia, again NH4, then the what do you call it, water vapor H2O, isn't it? So hydrogen combined with carbon to form methane CH4, hydrogen combined with nitrogen to form ammonia the NH3, and again hydrogen combined with oxygen to form water H2O. Because of high temperature, ammonia and methane remained as gases, and water existed in the form of water vapor. And free oxygen would not have existed during that time, uh, since the atmosphere was too hot. So it is believed that the atmosphere at that time was a strongly reducing type. But oxygen free oxygen, even though free oxygen was not available, but the oxygen would have combined with other materials like iron, silicon, etc., whose oxides formed much of the Earth's crust. And then what happened? As time passed, the temperature of the earth came further down. As a result, some of the gases started to get liquefied. Okay, from the gaseous form to liquid form, it got converted. And some of the liquids at the same time turned into solids. So, one of the substances that became liquid was the water. Okay, so water earlier it existed in the form of water vapor, but when the Earth's temperatures further came down, the water vapor it get converted into water. Okay, liquid water, and this resulted in the form of rain because water vapor in the atmosphere it getting converted into water liquid form means it automatically it will come down as rain. Okay, so but as the earth was still very hot, water droplets reaching the surface were immediately evaporated and they actually return back to the atmosphere. So this cycle, okay, the water vapor getting converted into water, coming down as rain, as soon as it touches the surface of the earth, gets evaporated and back to the atmosphere. This kind of a cycle actually it continued for millions of years, but eventually the earth became cool enough to hold water in liquid form, and this created rivers, lakes, oceans, etc. Okay, some of the atmospheric ammonia and methane uh, got dissolved in the water and it reached the oceans. Rocks also dissolve, leading to the accumulation of liquid water containing methane, ammonia, and many other such minerals. So, this was actually a very key event, a very important step that led to the origin of life. And the whole process, it went over 3,000 million years. So, we had the water, we had all these molecules come up on the earth. Now, the next one was formation of simple organic molecules from all those elements and molecules which had developed during the process. So once the earth was formed, the next step in the origin of life should be the synthesis of simple organic molecules. That is what is referred as the micromolecules. Okay, uh, especially from the basic four elements existing, that is ammonia, methane, hydrogen, and water vapor. So all these in gaseous form. So because of the gas methane played a very important role, and because of its like bonding properties of the carbon, it combined with other elements and formed larger compounds like ethane, propane, ethanol, acetic acid, glycerol, fatty acids, and monosaccharides. Okay, ammonia in the same way it also had a very important role, so that nitrogenous compounds such as amino acid, then nitrogenous bases like purines and pyrimidines were formed during the process. Other active micromolecules like adenosine monophosphate, adenosine diphosphate, adenosine triphosphate also came into being during the process. So there have been different types of organic micromolecules or simpler or organic molecules that were formed during the process, and they were subsequently brought down to the earth by heavy rain. So in the course of time, these simpler organic molecules started to get accumulated in the oceans, in the primitive oceans and seas. Okay, so now the ocean and the sea is having different kind of organic molecules. There were what you call acetic acid, there were glycerol, there were monosaccharides, fatty acids, amino acids, different kinds of nitrogenous bases. So all these like ADP, ATP, etc., all these molecules were present in the ocean water. Okay, so it was actually somewhat like an organic soup. Okay, the water containing different organic molecules. So it was a kind of a organic soup. And then the temperature on the earth, it was still higher than what is now. So it was considered to be a hot organic soup in which atoms on molecules which were there in the water, they were in constant motion because of the high temperature, and they collided with each other, and this collision it resulted in the formation of newer and more complex organic molecules. Okay, so this resulted in the formation of macromolecules or the complex organic molecules. Now, what were these complex organic molecules? Obviously, because the colliding molecules were like nitrogenous bases, fatty acids, monosaccharides, glycerol, etc. The macromolecules which were formed from them were obviously included polysaccharides, lipids, proteins, nucleic acids, etc. So these combining of the micromolecules to form a larger compound, it is known as polymerization. And it involved a process of condensation during which a water molecule was removed. For example, when two monosaccharides were collided or it reacted, what happened is a molecule of water is lost, okay, from these two monosaccharides, and this resulted in the formation of a covalent bond between the two monosaccharides, and the product which is formed, it is referred as a disaccharide. Okay, so two monosaccharides coming together, they binding together, and during this process a covalent bond is formed and a molecule of water is lost. So what is the result? Two monosaccharides put together, it is a disaccharide. Okay, now further condensation of many monosaccharides together, it led to the formation of polysaccharides, for example like starch, glycogen, etc. Similarly, proteins were formed from amino acids. So many amino acids, they've come together, they collided, a molecule of water was lost from two amino acids coming together, reacting together, and a peptide bond is formed newly, and this resulted in the formation of a dipeptide, isn't it? So two amino acids together, right? Then such kind of a huge number of amino acids may form peptide bonds with each other and formed a large chain of amino acids. So that is known as a polypeptide. And further larger amino acid chain, they are referred as a protein, isn't it? So the first formed proteins were called proteinoids by Fox in 1965. Okay, some of these proteins that were formed later, they helped in speeding up the rate of reaction or rate of formation of certain molecules in the organic soup. Okay, so that is a C. Now what happened later? So along with these processes, another very important macromolecule that was formed was the nucleic acid and nucleoproteins. Obviously, we already saw that fatty acids were formed, proteins were formed, larger carbohydrates were formed, polysaccharides were formed. Along with these, very important one, which was actually a turning point, that was the formation of nucleic acids and nucleoproteins. Okay, these were formed as chains of nucleotides. Nucleic acids were actually chains of nucleotides, and each nucleotide is composed of a nitrogenous base, a phosphate molecule, and a pentose sugar. Okay, so nucleic acids were somewhat like a naked gene in the ocean. Okay, and with this, the ability of self duplication or replication were gradually resulted in. So the nucleic acids then combined with proteins to form the nucleoproteins. Okay, and these gen molecules may have formed the viruses and genes. Obviously, when we speak about chromosome is nucleic acid plus the protein, isn't it? So it is the nucleic acid plus the protein, that is a nucleoprotein. So it is maybe the first formed like a molecule that may have later given rise to chromosomes. Okay, now what were the energy sources for all these reactions to happen in the primitive earth? All these reactions may have been under the influence of energy, especially discharged through lightning or high temperatures, or through ionizing radiation or ultraviolet radiation from the sun, then heat emanated from volcanoes. So that could have been the energy that had been used up for all these reactions to go on in the oceans. Okay, now the first thing. Okay, so all these, I suppose it is clear, and the passing on to the next step, it is very important. So these macromolecules had a tendency for aggregation and precipitation in the, that is formation of a solid form, okay, in the primitive ocean. So all these macromolecules came together, and this led to the formation of colloidal particles of organic materials. Colloidal particles in the sense, in the watery medium, this got suspended as solid molecules. Okay, so Oparin named these colloidal particles as coacervates. Okay, coacervates. Okay, these were formed of the organic molecules. These organic molecules which we have already mentioned, and these organic molecules, they had come together to form aggregations, and that were referred as a coacervates by apparent. Okay, so the further reactions we'll be dealing it in the next presentation.